as many hours a day as I possibly can smoking cannabis.
Well, our subject this afternoon is cannabis, a subject which is of interest to large numbers of people, though it's rarely discussed, and in fact seems to have attained the status of somewhat of a taboo in polite society. My interest in it is intense and lifelong, I must say. I remember when I first encountered it, within a few minutes of my first exposure to it, I realized that I was going to be able to self-medicate myself to normalcy.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You're having a nightmare. What if it's true?
Ladies and gentlemen.
Alan, it's a possibility, isn't it?
The very word secrecy is repugnant.
Secrets.
In a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers,
Constant, extreme danger,
which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger,
extreme danger,
that an announced need for increased security.
What the hell is going on?
This is Conspiracy Queries
Green
with
Crush.
Alan Park.
Will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control.
You're crazy.
And no officious, high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes.
Isn't the Pentagon suspicious that all the buildings blow up?
Or to withhold from the press and the public
I think you're just looking at things for the first time.
the facts they deserve to know.
You've had your whole fucking life to think things over. What good's a few minutes more gonna do you now?
The facts they deserve to know. They deserve to know. Deserve to know. Deserve to know.
Welcome to another episode of Green Crush Conspiracy Queries with Alan Park. This is the part where it all goes down. Hang on.
Facts they deserve to know.
So I've achieved unelevated existence. Raise your fist.
Yes, it's Green Crush Conspiracy Queries with Alan Park. Thank you very much for joining us on episode 51, or as we like to say in Conspiracy Queries Land, episode 123. Yeah, so we have our 123 episode, our 51st episode is, we have a guest. Like usual, we don't always have a guest. I was waiting for that guy. Raise your fist. We don't always have a guest. However, we almost always have a guest. And this guest today is a very personally tinged version of having a guest. This is Joanna Puffmama Baker. And if it sounds like I have a little extra love and a lot of reverence for Joanna, your detection skills are working perfectly well. Joanna is a little backstory on Green Crush. If this is your first episode, you've got 122 to go back and listen to. This is going to take hours, but at the end of which you probably know how not to be horribly unwell with a terrible disease. So it's worth it. But I got stage 4 cancer a few years ago, and it completely took my life away. And when I turned to cannabis, because I was given no other option, actually that's not true. I turned to cannabis immediately and then used it for 5 weeks and then found out I had no option. Meanwhile, the cannabis option was working real well at that point, so I knew that was a fictitious report from said doctor. I'm still here. You can't get around that. But this guest, she used to provide the occasional cannabis. I would find myself in her company, and she would pull out some cannabis, and I took that into my system and enjoyed it in a recreational way, in a non-sacramental, non-health-based or targeted way. And that was good for a while for me. And then I stopped using it in a recreational, non-medicinal way for years. Did not use it. So when I got the notion to get on the cannabis train to help me, to see if it would even work, I know I needed it to be a good caliber, and I needed to trust the person from whom I obtained it. Those are 2 big points for anybody. If you're out there trying to obtain cannabis, make sure you can do your best to understand its source, its quality, if you will. And so I had one person that I used to spend time with in a cannabis sense, and I was still friends with her, and I contacted her, and I said, I got to come and talk to you, and it's really heavy. And outside of my immediate tiny circle of, at that time, life partners and confidants, whatever you want to call it, the small piece of family, the small few contacts within your bubble, well, I was quite frightened to get this news. And I was also quite frightened to tell anyone this news. It's a personal issue. And, I don't know of anybody running around saying, hey, I got cancer. Look at this. I just found out I got cancer. Isn't that great? I don't know anybody doing that. You kind of want to keep it tight and live with it for a little while and understand, what it means, how it's going to affect your day. And you're trying to sort all that out as soon as you get the diagnosis. I'm laughing because I know it's impossible, but it's a natural place for the mind to want to explore. So back to Joanna. I needed someone I could trust. I needed someone who knew what they were talking about, and I didn't have a lot of time to go searching and checking and cross-referencing. I just knew that Joanna Baker was going to be the gal to point me in the right direction. And so I always think fondly of her, and I'm glad she commemorates this, not this particular event in my life, but it was in sync with her event called Puff Jam. What a great time we have. I've been doing it since 14, it was just a couple of weeks ago. Puff Jam is a really great time. It's at an undisclosed location, which moves around for the reasons that you can imagine. Via legality, also keeps it fresh and fun. And Puff Jam is great. Top acts come in and play music there. It's really a great time. And she, of course, has an establishment here in Toronto where cannabis is consumed, has been consumed. We're going to find out all about what's going on with Joanna later on. But for now, back to the driving issue here in Canada. Why you still might get busted no matter how long you wait to drive after using cannabis is an article in last week's Now magazine in Toronto, August 15th. Says here there's some easy-to-follow rules regarding how long to wait after consuming cannabis before driving. You get them when you get your prescription, if you get one. Recently, this person was given the same instructions by Mothers Against Drunk Driving to wait 4 hours after smoking and 8 hours after eating cannabis. Just do that, and you'll avoid actually breaking the drug driving laws, she was told. But the legalization was looming, and the federal lawmakers continued to adhere to outdated and faulty science as it relates to roadside drug testing. Now, this just came out in an article last week here in Toronto, where I live. And I came out with this awareness, I don't know, last year? Around this time, as we were getting close to Christmas, for sure. And our old friend, the Draeger Drug Test 5000s. I really want to take an exploration into understanding this company and this machine. It's got a lot of weak points, and not the least of which they're going to use it to try to undermine our constitutional rights here in this country. The Draeger Drug Test 5000. Faulty science as it relates to drug testing. Although there have been numerous recent studies that state THC does not break down in the body in a similar fashion to alcohol, that's because they are two completely different things, you idiots. Completely different things. It's not even like apples and oranges, which are at least both fruit. Okay? They're completely different. The longer it takes for these clowns to stop shoving this bogus thread of information through an impossibly tiny eye hole in the needle, the better off we're all going to be. It doesn't matter that it doesn't break down as quickly. It's a food. Your body is trying to hang on to the food, like it does with all of the other nutrients you pass between your lips, or your pucker if it's a suppository day. The Draeger Drug Test 5000, which I'm going to imagine is very well and very heavily invested into by a lot of the top cops in the forces that brought this forth. I thought I was going to trip over that. The Draeger Drug Test 5000 recently became the first oral swab saliva test for roadside use by cops, approved by the Department of Justice here in Canada. The feds claim that only marijuana consumed within the last 6 hours will be detected, but several more recent and variable control studies of oral swab tests can show impairment levels in regular or medicinal users, even if they have abstained for long periods of time before driving. Now, this is greatly concerning when you see cops lying and, telling people laws, making them do things that aren't even really laws. Just bullshit, right? So it's not just me. It's a constitutional lawyer named Jack Lloyd saying oral swab tests can show impairment levels in regular or medicinal users, anybody, even if they have abstained for long periods of time before driving. Now, this is going to be huge. If you're just tuning in and you're thinking, oh, that's nice, the little stoner boy's going to be enjoying legal pot soon. No, that's not what they're doing here. They've created an entrapment system, an architectural morass of really poorly put together cross beams and I-beams and everything else. Just a pile of construction matter dumped in a heap, being sold to us as a well-built condominium. It's not that at all. It's going to cause an unbelievable... I mean, there's part of me that would just... I wish I could just go into a capsule and wake up around spring break 2019, because between Halloween this year, a couple of weeks after Canada goes legal, and say March break or just that, there's going to be such a huge amount of people who've been arrested, and there will be people in that pile of arrestees who are innocent, who have been unfairly engaged by some steroid monkey looking for a reason to continue his pension. The law is supposed to protect us from impaired drivers, Lloyd continues, but it's not protecting us from impaired drivers. It's just giving police a blanket authority to charge random Canadians. It's because they've created per se limits that will effectively mean a great number of people can never drive. I put myself in this category, legally speaking. Because I know that there will have been less than 6 hours gone by, and I know that even if there's more gone by, I know that if they find anything in you at all, they will go on the premise that you're wasted, you're high. Okay? This is where we're going. This isn't the joyful legalization. The word itself, legalization, is like problematic, as the left always loves to say. It's problematic. It doesn't work properly. And again, it's no end of amusement to me. I mean, I have to take it in small bites, but the clowns that design this shit claim to have clear mind, unaffected by the impairments of occasional, semi, or even one-time cannabis use. Oh, they're so smart, aren't they? A 2014 study out of Norway found the THC was showing up in the tests of regular marijuana users even after they had abstained for days or weeks. Your Honor, I don't care what the officer says. In fact, why don't we look at his record of arrests and see how many held up under these conditions, sir? But if I'm going to abstain from something that I'm legally allowed to have and then still get arrested for it later, you have got the problem, not the users. These results suggest that the toxokinetics of THC are not as simple as was previously thought. Study says this makes interpretation of toxicology report results much more difficult than it has been. Well, why don't you just say that it means something then? If you don't have the facts, just go ahead and say it anyway. Try that in court. See how that goes. It should be noted that THC is a much more complex molecule than alcohol, and the science is unable to provide general guidance to drivers about how much cannabis can be consumed before it's unsafe, or before the proposed level. So they put it at 2 nanograms. 2 nanograms, which if you bother to measure it, if you can see out this window here, there's restaurants across the street. In the back of those restaurants, there's garbage. That's where they put the restaurant garbage. And in and under those bins, there are rats. Okay? One of those rats taking some of that food and going back to his nest about a block the other direction, even further away. That rat farts and you catch a whiff of it, that's about 2 nanograms. Give or take. So these fascists, it's just amazing to me where they're coming from. Because it's not that really amazing where they're coming from. More disappointing and amazing that most people are completely unaware of this. It's gonna be legal. Isn't that great? Look up the word legal, legalized, and celebrate your own enslavement. Good God, folks. So yeah, it's not the same as alcohol. We've been saying it is over here when it's convenient to us, but it's not really over here when the facts come down. But anyway, the federal lawmakers continue to move forward.
He's doing such a good job.
No, he's not. Why is our government doing this? Because it's easier to pretend we have a way of determining marijuana inebriation in the same way we do for alcohol. It's easier to pretend. These are people, really upset that you might even use cannabis and certainly have fun with it, or certainly be able to see through the bullshit of the edicts coming down from the alleged halls of power. It's easier to pretend we have a way of determining inebriation in the same way for alcohol. It's easier to quell the concerns of the anti-marijuana lobby, who, by the way, are police and people who don't know what's going on, and Christians who think it's unchristian to take cannabis into your body. But this is the whole deal. It's easier to quell the concerns of the anti-marijuana lobby than accept the rights of those who participate in using it. It's a struggle. By claiming to have a way of catching marijuana-impaired drivers, they don't have that, though. They don't have that way. They're so full of it. You can't say it's bad for 19 different reasons. Never point out one of the good reasons, therefore lock it up and ban it and make it impossible to get a hold of for anybody. You can't really do that and then turn around and say there's not enough research on this, so we'll have to sit on it for a while. You can't do both. Not sure why people don't understand that. Same reason they're not burning down the Vatican, I guess. I mean, why the fuck aren't people out at the Vatican with torches right now? I don't know. I'm not Catholic, and I saw it coming a long time ago, and I complained about this 15, 18, 20 years ago in stand-up, so I don't need to go out there. World Youth Day. The Pope actually has a thing, or the other one did, the previous one. World Youth Day. They go to a town somewhere in the world, invite all the kids. I mean, can you imagine anybody else with so many pedophilia charges being able to get away with that? Kind of slipping out of my topic here. Marijuana legalization meant many voters could turn against the federal government. Taking a strong stance against marijuana-impaired driving helps to quell those concerns and prevent marijuana-grumpy voters from supporting another party. So you're playing politics with the thing I use to stick a lance into the throat of stage 4 cancer. Huh? Is that right? Wow. That not a single U.S. state or county that has that has legalized marijuana has seen a rise in traffic accidents suggests our law and order response is to a perceived problem, not an actual one. Here's the actual problem. A cop who is a rights-abusing asshole designed the new Canadian cannabis system. And as typical in a lot of politics, he's not even in charge of that anymore. They moved him over to some other cabinet. I might be mistaken. He still has this cabinet, but they moved him elsewhere. Really not okay having this guy in our country. I know we should deport him, but he's Canadian. What are you going to do? Yeah. And then again, the article doesn't advise you to drive under the influence of marijuana, but you don't need to wait 3 weeks to get it out of your system. So here's what happens. If you fail the test, which is basically the officer's discretion, your car will be impounded and you're off to the police station for further testing and scrutiny. The good news is that the oral swab saliva test is not the smoking gun the police need to convict you. The bad news is that the other tests conducted by a drug recognition evaluator are just as problematic. A blood test will also be administered. Can you believe these pricks using pricks? Hello. Here, too, recent tests have shown THC in blood is just as irrelevant to impairment as in saliva. So you're going to stick me with a thing because you're in a gang that wears blue clothes, and that it doesn't even matter if it comes up positive. It won't matter to the truth, but it will matter to whoever gets arrested for this. Because the combo of blood and saliva tests, along with the recognition expert's testimony, that's going to be enough to land you with a DUI conviction, despite you never having driven a car while impaired. Thank you very much. Been saying this forever. Very well written. Thank you for putting that out there. My goodness gracious. I can't even believe people don't already know this. This is the thing, like before they actually designed the laws, before they even came up with what the friggin' laws are, myself, several other people, activists in this country, trying to get to Ottawa to tell these people what's up. They barely listened to the folks of us that made it there. But this is all fiction. That's the problem with it. It's fiction. Okay, just before I bring on our guest, I want to do a little something. You all right? We have some. We have a winner. We've got to do some things, and so I'd like to get that done now. Just before we bring in our guest, Joanna Baker. So, let's see here. Oh, here we go. Here's the announcement. All right, we have the Prohibition winner of the Prohibition Cannabis Prize Pack, which includes their exclusive BC Maplewood tray. Get your hands on that now, because a lot of BC Maplewood looks like it's burning down. So here's a tray made out of it you can get your hands onto. A lovely grinder, okay? Some nice rolling papers, good quality stuff. Glass containers, you know, that's going to be for, and a t-shirt and a hat. And we had this contest, so thanks for everybody who entered at prohibitioncannabis.ca. We had this contest on at Green Crush Pod, and we do have a winner. So we're going to be shipping that out shortly to the winner, whose name is Stephen Treneman. All right? Stephen Treneman, Treneman, is coming to us as a winner. How many winners we got so far? 8? 7 or 8? Anyway. Okay, so that's him. That's an announcement made, right? Did I make that okay? Can we get Joanna's coming in here trying to sneak around. Don't sneak around. It's okay. So we've got a video to play. We're going to throw that up right now, and then I've got another quick spot to do before we get rocking with this interview. So, Russell, if you wouldn't mind doing the honors.
So out of it.
Yeah, so
the
hot.
Craziest show ever is the Underground Comedy Show in Toronto.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that place?
No.
Dude, they have a bong shop, and in the back room, it's all a comedy show, but it's all people smoking pot in the room. It's a hot box.
While you're doing the show.
Oh, yeah. They have bongs on the tables. Dude, people are blitzkrieged.
You're right.
You are so high when you're on stage. You can't remember what you were talking about 3 seconds ago. I mean, it's so bad. And it's thick, like smoke everywhere. Like there's no ventilation.
Well, you can't do material. You just have to go fuck around.
Yeah, I mean, you could try to do material. I definitely have tried. But, like, I took Tripoli there, and Tripoli doesn't really get high. At least he didn't. I don't know.
I don't think he does.
At the time, I think he might have been sober. But, dude, he got blitzkrieg just breathing the air in this place.
Just got fucking ripped.
The whole place.
Did he bomb?
There was... I don't think anyone bombed. Like,
yeah.
They were
See,
very
I feel like that's
friendly.
such a bomb venue where you're like, I'm never going to do well in here. They're not paying attention.
You're just out of it. It's just the whole thing. You're off. Everything's off.
Right.
Like, you're so high. But that's also where I did a thing. The Iron Sheik came on stage in that place. You ever seen that video with the Iron Sheik? Joe Rogan's. And he starts talking to me. And that's when I realized the price that pro wrestlers pay.
Oh, my
like
God.
The health. Like, this poor fella is in crutches and shit. He can barely walk. That's him and me on stage.
In the world, UFC and
MMN?
They are toughest individual wrestler and fighter. But I want to ask Joe Rogan, what is the toughest sport in the Olympic? Freestyle, Greco-Roman, or UFC? Oh, yeah. The toughest sport in the Olympics is freestyle wrestling, sir. Absolutely. I have a lot of respect for Mr. Joe because he knows what he's talking and he knows how to watch it.
One of the highlights of my life. Being on stage high as giraffe pussy, talking to the Iron Sheik in a room with a pot leaf behind me. That's a big old pot leaf.
Was he ripped too?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
There's
lit.
not a sober eye in that.
Oh, that's great. That's the Joe Rogan Experience, of course, a great podcast. All kinds of topics covered on there. And, of course, he was singing the praises of Joanna Baker, who now joins us in studio. Joanna,
Hi.
Thanks for coming in. I'm going to make sure we can hear you because there we go. All right, so it's a rainy day, and I was just telling the folks before you got here on this rainy day about my origin story of turning to you for cannabis, and that, you know, we'd known each other for a long time, and then I'd stopped using cannabis and hanging around for a while until I got sick, really, right? And then I came back crawling on my hands and knees. I'm so sorry for spurning cannabis. Maybe this is going to help me. So, yeah, so you have like a cool room in the city. You've got a room. How long has that room been? Well, you've moved it a couple of different places, but overall, that place was...
In total, we were in the first place for 2.5 years, and then we've been at... Well, in total, it's been about 12.5 years.
12.5 years. That's incredible. Okay, so here comes... oh, I see. Right. Now we're done with this. Yeah. Okay, thanks. You could just say 4. Kill it. Russell's the silent assistant. He won't say anything when we're on the air. So 12 years of... Wait a minute. 12 years? Is that all? Hang on.
Well, I did shows at the hall for 7 years.
Oh, that's right. There we go. Yeah, there was a hall on College Street.
We rented a hall that's now demolitioned.
Right. Is it
was
really?
Great. Yeah. They took it out last year for condos, of course.
Oh, wow.
But that was going on for 7 years, so I think technically my first show was in 1999.
And you were doing those like once a month or every few months or something like that?
Approximately once a month.
Yeah. And you would bake things and bring them and sell them to the event, right? It was kind of weird. I remember now thinking about it.
Yeah, we just rent the hall. We let people smoke. We put on a comedy show, and then we did vending and sometimes full out food.
Yeah, food. Those are the ones I remember.
Those
are
pretty epic.
Yeah, so I was doing those for a while without partaking, and then later on you opened on the other side of Broadview. You had a shop there for a while, like a full-on, you know.
Yeah, that was. We had a head shop in the front, and we did comedy in the back room.
Yeah.
And then the new location where we're at now for 9 years.
Yeah.
Is tiny little head shop in the front, but it's mostly just comedy.
Mostly comedy in the back, and it's going really well. You have shows there almost every night now, or is it every night?
Wednesday to Sunday.
Wednesday to Sunday. What happens Monday, Tuesday?
I sleep.
You gear up for the week, right? So a lot of great shows. So we'll tell the folks quickly where we can find you online, etc., and information about the venue, and then we'll talk about some other topics of the day.
Well, my website's puffmama.ca, puffmama.ca.
That's it.
And we have Instagram and Facebook website at Underground Cafe 420. I'm not the best at social media, so I just stick it all on my site.
That's okay. So it's all there. So that's where we can find you. So, all right, let's get to it. Where did the idea and how did it come to you to put Puff Jam together? Because I mean, you've gone from doing these occasional one-nighters at a Ukrainian venue that's no longer with us. Then you have your own place. Then you decided, this isn't busy enough. I need to organize an annual summer music festival. So how did that come up?
Well, that evolved from me going up to a festival and going to other festivals too, and seeing music and vending on the side. And then when this one festival in the Sioux Hempfest stopped being, there's a band, Killing Time, which I am wearing their shirt today just by chance.
Killing Time band,
Killing Time
great
band. And
so fun.
The lead singer from that, Brad Hales, and I decided to put Puff Jam together. So we're getting older, and we got lots of kids and old people, so we don't really want to travel way up north. So we decided to put on a Southern Ontario small music festival.
Yeah.
And that's what that is.
It's always great. It was so good this year. The band is awesome, and Brad also had his little 16-year-old niece
singing.
Get up on
incredible?
stage. It's
Avalon Burns. She was incredible.
She seemed kind of shy at the beginning, and it was like, oh, okay, well, it's the afternoon, and no pressure, and here's this young girl who's very quiet, and the way she was talking was very unassuming, like, thanks for letting me come and be here today, and it's really nice to be allowed to come. And she's thanking us. And then she treated us to some of the most incredible singing I have heard in a long time. And I'm not being hyperbolic.
No, we were all very impressed. That was
an astounding performance that afternoon. She did about 9 or 10 songs maybe or something.
Like
just
that.
Amazing. With one guitar player a female guitar
Another
player
lady, yeah.
doing a great job on a nice looking guitar. It was just a great outfit. I see nothing but superstardom for her.
Yeah,
It was-
Brad picks out good music. He's the one that picks all the music, and it's all mostly Burlington people. So the bands know each other from that. That's why the festival grounds is close to Burlington as well. So
Well, he
it's easy
cannot
to
be
set up
accused
that way.
of nepotism by picking his own. What is it? His cousin? His niece?
It was his niece.
Yeah.
His sister. She we call her Green Pea because she makes these awesome patties, and she had that great green van next to the big
that's
bouncy
right.
castle.
Yeah, that's right.
So she's been coming for a long time too. She's been a part of it, and I don't know. It's kind of that's what we call it, family gathering. 'Cause
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's my family.
It's the family of people who
Canna family.
Yeah, it's the Canna family. It's the
Canna
people who
family.
understand this thing is not really an agent of destruction.
No.
It's actually the opposite.
Nope.
When you look at it, you turn it around the other way, and they. So yeah. So okay. So. What are we going to do? I've been wanting to ask you this for such a long time, and then I thought I'll wait until I have you in the studio. With your entrepreneurial position, you know, as what it is, you're a vendor. You have a shop. We do comedy shows there. When you see the new laws coming out, or what the ideas for new laws are. For example, we just had an entire system of laws introduced for Ontario by the previous government. Apparently, they're to the letter all going by the wayside. We're going to sell things differently here. So, what do you do when you wake up and you go read the news on the computer or something and go, maybe I can't keep doing this place, or like what goes through your head? Like, is it
that never occurs
a
to
call
me.
to arms? Like, screw these guys, or you
No,
always have to be on
that
top of
doesn't
what
occur
they're
to me
saying.
either.
What doesn't occur to you? That screw
Sometimes
these
I
guys?
feel like I can't keep up, and it changes so
Because
frequently.
the information changes.
When Kathleen Wynne decided that they were going to do the Cannabis Board of Ontario, we were all like, "No, don't do that. We don't want to buy weed and liquor in the same place." There's some people who shouldn't be walking by liquor bottles to go buy their weed. They're trying to not do that.
Right.
There's a lot of arguments about the government controlling it to take the money, and then when Doug Ford comes in now he's just okay. No, we still don't want dispensaries, even though other people on the planet don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
He wants to sell online, so it's almost. It's like Animal Farm. He just took over. He's doing the same thing. They're just trying to control it, which I understand. There's money involved.
Sure.
But I just don't understand why they can't just use the existing infrastructure.
Yeah,
that to me
that's
is
the
weird.
thing,
It's like,
to-
look, the work's already been done.
Just the
People have already
notion.
done it. Like, why are you wasting
It-
tax dollars?
It makes me think, like, if I went into, and I know nothing, I just know how to change my oil and a couple of fan belts and some spark plugs and this and that, change my tires, basic car knowledge. But it reminds me of, like, if I went to, the Ford plant or the Chevy plant and just walked in knowing nothing. Oh, no. You guys are doing it all wrong. You're going to stop this whole thing right now, and we are going to come up with a whole different way, but we'll be ready to rock in a couple of months. Okay, bye. Get out of here. And if you do any more car building, I'm going to fire you, and then I'm going to put you in jail. Like, that's how stupid it is, because it's a complicated scenario. These people don't know about growing enough, about distribution, about the compassion. How did these rooms even come into existence? It's a well-worn method.
Yeah.
Of the
One foot in
Dallas
front of each
Buyers
other.
Club, the whole thing, from AIDS,
One
drugs.
foot in front of the other. But
And these guys come in and
they
say
don't
they
like
can do
that
it
path.
all. Yeah. So you just try to keep on top of it, right? Like, you're aware of
I think the only thing
what's
I'm
up.
concerned about is because the Ontario Smoke Free Act had put pot on the bill to say, okay, no one can smoke in
Right.
these, anywhere but home, which is stupid. But now that's all changing. But now I don't know. So I just really worry about creating the same space once legalization happens. I don't want to have to change anything when everyone that's coming there is fine with what's going on.
Yeah. So have you ever had, interlopers coming by to check things out and maybe give you a hard time, or
Never.
they never?
No,
That's so
I have
great.
never had a 911 call from my establishment in all the years I've been doing anything, ever.
But
Not
what about all the
once.
people who take cannabis at your place and then go insane and crazy and kill themselves and do horrible things and cause all that violence?
Well, it didn't happen on my watch.
You didn't hear about it, huh? Yeah.
It's
well,
usually just cops ending up in trees, and we just end up going, "Oh, Muffin, that's so
true.
cute."
It is. That was a fun story. The guy. cops up a tree.
Sorry, I think it's adorable.
It's a great story.
There's nothing wrong. They're not in danger, and they're terrified.
These are Toronto cops a little bit earlier this year, right? Where they bust somebody, and then they took that stuff and went up a tree, or they got high.
I think they ate, I could be wrong, but I think they ate some edibles, possibly during a bus, that they'd gotten from someone's fridge, not knowing what was going on, and then they ended up terrified later, and then they had to call for backup.
As you do.
From a tree.
Sure, from a tree. Yeah.
I can't climb a tree sober, let alone high.
Yeah. That must be embarrassing when you're sitting up there
later,
as a cop,
for sure.
calling into the main desk going, I don't know, I think it's a maple, but it could be an oak. The thing is, I can't get down. Yeah, that's an odd situation to be in. But okay, so here we go with. So you're just going to keep plowing through. That's your mindset, because that's been my mindset. I'm just going to keep doing what I need to do, and
just tell me when to stop.
Call shit when there's shit.
That's the only way I can operate the club, is like, tell me when to stop.
Yeah.
Tell me when I'm doing something wrong. If there's a new tax law or a new paperwork I got to fill out, give me the opportunity to have that.
Yeah, show it. Bring it to me and let me look at it, right?
So there's and it changes all the time. So just when you get your brain around, this is how it's going to be. Oh, tomorrow's news is different. They're like, okay, now this is going to how it's be. Like, so I can't run a business like that. I can't keep writing my business plan every single day according to what the government's doing. Bars don't have to do that. So why should we?
Well, there was this thing, remember the bars did a long time ago, where the government in Ontario, or was it just Toronto, and they said, okay, you can't smoke in here in the bar, but if you're going to smoke in the bar, you have to build a smaller area within, a little aquarium.
Less than a year later, they said, no, actually none of that.
And think of the people that said, okay, we'll do a partial shutdown.
Business
we'll renovate.
Closed because of that.
Yeah, and they built these new areas, and then all of a sudden, the area's not good enough.
I mean, let's admit, cigarettes in bars were gross.
It is
true. When I started working in bars, we smoked in the bars, and reeked at the end of the night. And who knows how unhealthy and gross it all was. So I'm glad to never see smoking in bars.
But I've never. I mean, this is the issue.
People lost their livelihoods.
I understand it too. I don't like smoking in bars either. But I'm just trying to shine a focus on the people in charge who think they know everything. We're telling us, okay, here's one way to do it. You can have a smaller section within the bar, okay, and you can pay extra, and you can do the renos and get it all done. And no, you actually can't do any of that. Like, that's a simple thing to have done. And a lot of those same kinds of minds are in charge of this new, far more complicated legal system of cannabis. I mean, they couldn't even come up with a tobacco yes or no rule inside of four walls and a ceiling.
I imagine it's difficult to try and create a new law inside the government. So the weed people are a conundrum.
Well, I guess so.
There's so many people arguing about how to deal with us.
And
we've been dealing with ourselves just fine.
But they don't really listen to us, though. That's the thing. They don't.
No, they listen to themselves.
They don't seek our information. They go to the police and someone else working at a needle exchange, and apparently they know everything. But anyway, so that's too bad. So that's what is going to happen. So did you get a bit of a kick, though? Like, as I sit here, I've been kicking really hard at the Kathleen Wynne plan constantly. Took her out live in a town hall. And then to have this guy, Doug Ford, come in, who, I don't really like him. I don't like a lot of the things he's done. But one day I woke up and he said, yeah, we're not doing any of that. We're going to go to online sales. We haven't figured it. We're not going to put up brick and mortar stores.
That's even stupider, though.
But I was happy to not hear it. I was literally happy to say, hey, this is I have to own this, because this is everything I told her she should do. And then he's there in one corner. But why do you think it's not okay to not proceed with the LCBO distribution model?
Because he doesn't smoke weed, probably. So he doesn't understand the importance of looking at the buds, smelling the buds.
Right. And so it's good to get rid of that system.
Well, I'd like to be able to walk into a store and look at the buds and smell the buds and not be forced to buy online.
Right.
Because, or even if you did, are you going to get the bottom of the bag? Or are you going to get the top buds? What are you going to get?
Well, I think we're in a period of time where the true companies are going to rise to the top on that level, right? I mean, I know a couple of places I won't advertise on the show, but they bring a good quality product.
I believe it.
And I'm sure there's lots that don't. I've gotten lucky. But, again, it's not like alcohol on that level either, because you don't get to go and sniff your Jack Daniels to see if it's okay.
No, but you can look to see if the cans are dented, or you can tell to see if say you want the tequila worm to look a specific way. Like, I still want to, or sometimes I just want to stare at a shelf and buy what I want without having to be waiting on the mail. Like, I don't know. There's just all kinds of different.
But her plan, her plan though, was to get some amount of stores, 40 stores going or whatever, and
in
some
all of
online
Ontario.
aspect.
There's only going to be one downtown, and that was over on Vic Park. That's so stupid.
It wasn't really Victoria Park.
Victoria Park and Gerrard or something, and it was supposed to be in a strip mall next to two kid places. There's a Kuman math place and a jiu-jitsu place next to it, and they were like, "No, we don't want this here."
Doesn't surprise me.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, like,
that's over.
The point I was trying to say is that you don't think it's a good idea for Ford to have stopped that because he's only going to be selling it online?
I do, but not in order to sell online.
Ah, yeah.
He should have stopped that and then just license the dispensaries that are already doing it.
Yeah.
Put a series of inspectors out, and these are the parameters that are expected. Like, you need
like
an
a restaurant,
exit door.
like the restaurant guys
you need
have
to
inspectors.
Yeah, so whatever the inspection rules are, have an inspector go and say, okay, you don't fit these parameters, fix it up, or you won't get your license.
Right.
And that's it. And then the cleaner places will get their licenses,
like
and the dirtier places won't.
The green pass, the yellow pass, the red
pass. I don't see why it can't be just license the people that are already doing it.
Right. Well, they'll still make tax money too when you sell the item.
More that way,
right? You won't have to be managing the infrastructure.
People can walk into a shop to buy the product they need. They'll make more money that way. I still don't understand why they're doing online sales. I'm not going to buy online.
Well, I have
a card, and I still would never buy online. I just won't.
I think it's a Band-Aid for a lot of people. Like, you try it, and if it's good, you'll try it again. That was going to be the gap filler for the 40 stores had we gone her way. So I guess he's just riding it out. But this gives us time to kind of reorganize and reapproach them with things, right? I mean, we're just delaying it again till next year.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
In Ontario.
It could change by tomorrow. Do you think it's going to happen October 17th?
It's going to be fascinating.
I don't know if it's going to happen.
It'll be fascinating.
They keep pushing it back.
I'm sure I'll be awake that day. I can't wait to see. It's actually October 20th, folks. We need a few more days.
We just didn't get all the things together.
Well, they have lots to consider, and they have never really been able to figure it out. Here's some stuff I wanted to run by you because it's in cannabis world, okay? So the funding approach developed between Ontario and the city of Toronto reflects a provincial estimate of $100 million as Ontario's portion of the federal cannabis excise duty taxes, right, on recreational cannabis for the first 2 years. The province will provide $40 million over 2 years to all municipal governments to support their incremental implementation costs. You keep hearing about how, well, if we do this, you folks with the weed, you're just going to, it's just going to increase the cost of policing. It's just going to, they say this stuff because the reaction to something that shouldn't even be there. I mean, we don't even need to have more police when you're making something more accessible. It's kind of...
I have a feeling there might be a little bit of problems at the beginning, and then it'll settle out. Well, so maybe they're just...
transition.
In the transition.
Yeah.
Liquor stores get robbed all the time. I don't see why government weed stores wouldn't.
Yeah.
And who knows how they're doing this online stuff. I don't know. Or... people getting weed when they're too young. Are you
alcohol?
I was buying weed at 16.
Right. Oh, sure. But I guess I did.
It would just be like a friend of a friend, and there was one time there was a creepy dealer, so we had to have at least 2 or 3 of us girls with us, or else it would be weird. We shouldn't have to do that either.
I think I remember about when I was a kid, like to compare, if you want to compare booze, and there's certain aspects that they try to compare it wholesale until they can't. But the thing about cigarettes, pipes, cigars, booze, and beer, right, and wine, from my perspective as a little kid, as I remember it was, I knew it was all... able to be had. I guess I didn't know the word legal, but my parents had some. It was over there. I knew I wasn't supposed to have any because I was too young. But you also knew that ultimately it's okay. And ultimately, when you get old enough, it'll be okay to have, You know, at least that was my perspective. If you decide at that point when you're older that you want to smoke a cigar while you're having a brandy or whatever, scotch or something, that's okay, right? You can do that. And what, as a little kid, though, I was like thinking, yeah, later. But if you leave it illegal, and it's this dangerous thing, cannabis, and similarly, you're not allowed to do it, but you also see older people using it, that's really going to mess with your head, I think, a lot more than understanding, okay, like a lot of other things, when you're a little kid, there's certain things you can't have till you're older. Cannabis is on that list.
I wasn't even allowed coffee.
Yeah, no, you can't. That's another one. That's
you
a
see
choice.
Kids drinking coffee all the time now.
You'd see it. Yeah, well, it's everywhere now. But that's what I mean. They use this. When I say the folks that set the policies, they're not really aware of the fact that by leaving it as an illegal or highly controlled substance, this also causes an allure for some people that they don't want to have it to want to have it. You know, like when you make something. When you ban something or you tell someone they can't have it, they kind of want to have it just because of that.
Yeah, and that goes for almost anything.
Right. And it goes for almost anything. And so you know that if you're setting laws, but they set these laws and then they say, well, we don't want people to get it who shouldn't get it. And you know, it's bad stuff and black market. And we're going to get rid of the black market by keeping it illegal and highly controlled. Like they're so stupid. Or are they? Like, why do they come up with these what's your insight on that? Why do they do the obviously opposite of reality?
I'd like to think that people are inherently thinking that they are doing good when they do these things. Otherwise, why would they do it? So, like when you see politicians or police or people who are coming down on someone for doing drugs, I'd like to think that in their hearts they really are concerned, that they really are worried, that they just might be miseducated as to the effects of that. But as far as pure marketing goes, is like, oh, this is a terrible thing, like the way MAD does it, or the way that, you know, the war on drugs was.
Right.
That definitely fuels that.
Yeah.
Especially for me as a teenager, if I was like told something was bad and yet I knew in my mind it wasn't, I'd still do it.
Right.
That's why I thought, drinking's okay. Just don't go home drunk so your parents don't know, and eat a lot of mints or eat something garlicky.
The Tic Tacs.
Just pretend you're not drunk, and then your parents won't know. So as long as you don't get in trouble, they'll never know.
Yeah.
So that's the way a lot of teenagers deal with that. Just hide.
Well, it's going to be, as they're proceeding with this particular series of plans, which will leave the black market operational, which will leave cannabis as the taboo that people tack towards because it's a taboo. You know, the police services are going to be getting lots of more money. They're implementing these drug driving laws. There's going to be training for those cops to become drug recognition experts. Equipment is all over the place. Roadside testing kits, not yet available. Got to see one of those, though, the Draeger 5000. They're going to continue to shut down and prosecute illegal cannabis storefronts. That's kind of where I thought your place might fall under. It's not really, but it's a storefront.
Well, as long as we never sell weed in the club,
right.
They can't really touch me.
Well, that's good.
And then if ever there was an issue, I'd just be, until smoking is actually illegal,
right.
I'm not doing that wrong. Just because we're smoking it doesn't mean I sold it to them.
True. And then here with the bylaw officers may respond to an increase in nuisance complaints as residents adjust to legalization. Again, this is your song about your place. Never had a complaint
in
all of
in
that
my neighborhood. Not once. I go out of my way to make sure I'm friendly with my neighbors and be like, hey, you're cool with me. Hey, I'm so innocent and sweet.
Lots of people do that. That's okay.
It's just a neighborly thing to do. I'm from a small town. You get to know your neighbors. That's it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of places, especially a lot of the dispensaries that get complained about all the time. They don't put into the neighborhood. They don't show up at BIA meetings. They don't go into the local festivals. They don't support the neighborhood.
Right.
So that's when the neighborhood complains if you don't support it. But everyone on my strip knows us, especially the food restaurants. They know us really well.
Yeah, and never had a problem. Like, these are the kinds of facts. This is just like, to me, it's almost like it's important, but it's almost like a boring factor of your life. Like, you have a shop, and big deal. No one there has ever caused a problem, despite the nature of what you're purveying. There's never been a problem. I'm sure lots of people would like to say, oh God, we have to shut her place down. It's just a hangout for people doing illegal things and reprobates. I mean, there's people that are super hyper.
I'll be honest. I think I'm if anyone has ever complained in my neighborhood, they've never done it publicly or online.
Yeah.
We advertise all the time in our Leslieville page. The cops drive by without looking at me. They came in last week, actually. I'm so sorry to bother you and really apologetic. And but there's been an incident. Do you have any cameras of facing the street? And we're like, no. We're like, okay, thanks. Have a good night. And then they ran off. But they walked in. I'm so sorry to bother you. We need your help. And we're like, I'd love to help you. But no, I'm having known most of my neighborhood. It's really tight. Leslieville, Riverside, BIA is very tight. And
good neighborhood.
I'd know, but we're in a neck of the woods. There's not really too much residential, and it's all adult stuff. There's a ping pong lounge next to me.
Yeah,
I think they end up with more trouble sometimes than I do. They're good guys.
So this is the thing though with kids. And I'm going to say kids. It's an interesting time, I guess, because where we came from, we had, it was always illegal against the law. But now that it's opening up and younger people are going to be, it's okay now, it's legal. I see a lot of them getting pulled over and charged with things. They don't even realize what's going on with the legalization. Yeah, I see that happening. There's going to be a ton of cases.
Mind you, I was a teenager once, and they do stupider things. Like, don't smoke in your car. Just don't do it. Yeah. Just don't. That's where I have a bit of a problem with the smoking and driving laws they're trying to create. Is some people should be high when they're driving, but some people should not. So it's not like alcohol where you unanimously agree no one should be drunk and drive.
No, absolutely.
But I know some people who have rage disorder, and you take away their weed, and there's going to be a lot more road rage. Yeah. But then there's some people, like, as a teenager, there's no way I would have been distracted by pretty things, and then shit.
Yeah. Well, I have been known in the past, a long time ago, in the early days of my driving around to different gigs across this country. If I'm honest, I will say that reefers were lit up in the car at the time by either the driver or the passenger or passengers. And they went around, and the drivers partook, and that includes me when I was doing it. This was a long time ago, right? But it's still like I was well into my life. I could have easily been arrested and had a really hard time for that. I mean, I was in my 30s. So I don't understand why the younger people don't seem to care, and not everybody, but some of the ones I've spoken with, they don't care that the laws are changing. They don't really care what it means or anything. It just makes sense that it's available. And I see a lot of people getting caught in the teeth of this machine.
I think that sense of empathy gets created by experiences as you get older. When you're younger, you don't have that much empathy for the butterfly effect of it all. You're I'll be fine, I'm fine. And that's just teenage mentality. It goes right into your 20s. Yeah. And then you learn to let go of something like, I shouldn't do this because of this, because of this, because of this.
Yeah. And then
I don't know. I'm that douchebag that makes people pull over and smoke. I'm like, I don't mind if you're high driving. Let's not get distracted by the joint. And the heater. I don't know. So that to me is the issue. It's not even being high driving.
Right.
Even freshly high, just pull over. And then once you've done that distraction, now we can just drive. But if you're passing a joint and then suddenly it's too much. That's distracted driving to me. No, not high driving.
Right. Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Because you're not paying attention.
I see that falling in that category of distracted driving.
Yeah. That is distracted. I wouldn't do it now. This is what I meant to say. Like a long time ago.
But you're older. You've had experiences. You've seen things.
I would do it though within a smaller window than 6 hours waiting. I would do. They say wait 6 hours between. You've got to be kidding me.
You get too impatient with the drivers, and I'm patient when I'm high driving.
Yeah, I mean, if I have a 10 a.m. kind of breakfast wake and bake, and you think that I'm still going to be messed up at 4 o'clock or 3:30? I mean, it's going to take that long to
10 minutes, and then
that's about it.
That sort of confused part disappears in about 10, 15 minutes, and then you're just normal high.
Right, and everything's slowed down.
I'm not an expert.
And the movement, the spatial awareness is can be more. It is for me more locked in, and I'm very sensory aware when I'm into my. And it depends on the kind of cannabis.
From what I understand, there's no evidence to support that our reaction times in an emergency are less. Like there is evidence to support drunk driving. If you're drunk, even hours and hours and hours later, you can have a slow reaction time.
Yeah, well, I've seen videos where they do a course. They'll take someone out on a closed course, and they'll drive around high on the course, and they will occasionally knock down a cone or something like that. But the people that I've seen on the videos taking these courses, I mean, you can't prove this, I guess, but they look like the kind of people, they're already kind of nervous anyway. And if you put anybody completely straight on a course who's never done it before, with a guy sitting there with a clipboard, and take yourself through a driving course, I don't know you're going to score perfect if you've never had a drink or
I bet
never.
I could score perfect. I'm
okay,
a damn
so you're
driver.
one person. You're one person. But a lot of people, they get a little too close to a cone, or they'll scrape their the rear view mirror gets a little too close to a mailbox. Doesn't mean they're high. It
means they're just shitty drivers.
These are made mistakes.
Or if they make them do it first and then make them do it high the next day, then you can compare the two.
Then you compare the two.
That's different.
Yeah, but there's not enough to show it's problematic. And when we have car crashes and collisions, and there's always a great concern when there's alcohol involved.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be in the news story even before the guy's name is released. Sometimes they don't release the name.
Drunk driver hits 2.
Right, and they'll say alcohol was detected. And they don't seem to ever do that with any prescription drugs. Like, so if the guy wasn't drinking alcohol and he crashed, but maybe he's under the influence, did they test for anything else? Did they test for an antidepressant that caused him to go to the place where he decided to go head first into oncoming traffic? Or did they test him for...
Did they test him to see if he had a fight with his wife 10 minutes prior?
Yeah, exactly. So there's your alcohol problem, or your testing of alcohol, your cannabis problem. All right, so I think we have that covered. I want to also say to people a quick little thing about HempFest, okay? Because HempFest is coming up. And
the corporate one.
Yeah, well, here we go. This is, we are heading out to Hemp and Cannabis Expo at Toronto's Exhibition Place. When I say we, I mean Green Crush, September 15 and 16 with Paul Hartman.
Nice.
Who's probably listening to the show right now. I don't know. He gets up to all kinds of things. Catch our speaking spots on the main stage. That's going to be Paul speaking. I'm going to be speaking at the Cannabis Expo this year, Hemp and Cannabis Expo. Visit our booth, won't you? It's the Green Crush / Grow Light booth. Check that out. GROLYT. This is a grow light that will blow your mind. It's friggin' amazing, and it runs on hardly any power whatsoever. I know, they all say that, but we are teamed up with the Grow Light Company. They do lighting for film, and they do lighting for cannabis and growing plants. And Green Crush does Green Crush. So if you want to win tickets, we are giving away ticket packages every week until the show, which is, again, at September 15, 16, and that's beginning today. So as soon as I understand who we're going to be giving them to, I'll let you know. But we'll do that off the air. And once again, get on at Green Crush Pod to get more info on the event. And you can also go to hempfesttoronto.com, hempfesttoronto.com. That's where we're going to be talking and telling our little stories of from death to life. So that's coming up soon. Fantastic. So, all right. So how about on the weekend there? We had a couple of weekends ago at HempFest. Sorry, not at HempFest. We just did an ad for HempFest. Oh, I know. I'm still talking about HempFest. Never put in the closing theme. There we go. All right. So now I can move ahead. So at HempFest, I said it again. I needed Puff Jam. It's all fun stuff. I can't even keep it straight. So Puff Jam was so great with the music every year, and it was great again this year. And so I'm just going to ask you this inside for the people that actually went. Are we going to be staying at that location again?
Yeah, I think
you think so? It was so nice.
He said as soon as the end, he's like, "I want your party back. I really liked your party."
Oh,
like,
that's
okay,
great.
good, because we like them. The food, though, eh?
The food, though, eh?
Because
So
this
that's
guy
where
wasn't. For those who don't know, this guy was an organic farmer, and we held our festival on his land. And all weekend long, he just cooked, and he paid like $10 or $20 for a buffet, depending on what it was. And oh my God, I've never had better food.
Yeah, it's been
Those
a drag eating
zucchinis,
since then. Everything was
those
so
little
good.
cherry tomatoes that tasted like fruit because they are a fruit.
Yeah. Oh, they were
The
gorgeous.
yellow watermelons.
Yeah, it was great. Okay, so I got
okay,
that personal.
enough said.
Got that personal.
Screw my festival. Go for the food.
Oh God, have you ever heard of liposomal vitamin C?
No.
This stuff right here.
That sounds really technical.
It's technical. It is. It's technical, but it's fascinating.
Can I eat it in a food?
You can. You should. You should do it.
Because that's how I get my vitamins.
Yeah, this is a super important thing I wanted to add in because people, talking about all the things that we talk about on this show. How did I get out of trouble? My cancer problems. A great way to take vitamin C, a bad way to take it is to just swallow it, and then 25% of it stays in your stomach and the rest of it gets eaten up. This stuff, what happens is you can make it, and it's a little bit tricky. You have to have a particular machine, but they're available. And so what you do with it is you're basically combining a fat, usually a lecithin, vegetable and preferably organic lecithin, and preferably sunflower seed organic lecithin, and you put that in a juice or a water, and into this you add ascorbic acid crystals, and the vitamin C inside here, it gets wrapped up in the fat from putting it into a sonic cleaner, which shakes it so fast that it takes the water-based molecule of the vitamin C and it gets wrapped up in the fat of the lecithin. So when you swallow it, it goes right through your stomach, past all, and by the time the digestive juices are picking away at this fat, then the vitamin C is now into your abdominal tract beyond the stomach, and basically you're just massively increasing the amount of vitamin C you get into your body. Is it helpful? I think so.
Well, vitamin C is connected to your immune system, which is connected to fighting cancer.
That's exactly right. And they seem to echo very well together when you use them in concert. So as much as I sit here talking about cannabis and calling it Green Crush, I'm not exactly going to talk about vitamin C and call it Orange Crush. But you add the vitamin C into it. There's also other things you can add in along with, and I'm going to talk about this in a week or two with another guest I hope to get on here, Yindrik Bayer. And he knows a lot about this kind of interactivity, like the terpenes, say, from a mango that reflect and heighten the terpenes in cannabis. You must know about that.
Well, I like eating mangoes when I'm high, so yeah, I guess I do.
Eat a mango and then get high an hour later. Apparently, you're supposed to be able to get even more high because you had the
there are
mango.
certain foods, though, definitely my body immediately goes, that.
Bing. Name one. Mangoes
for sure.
It's the piney little thing in there that
I want watery food.
Watermelons.
So suddenly, like watermelons, or I want aloe water, or I want iceberg lettuce. I know there's no newts in it, but I want that metabolic water. So it's probably because I'm dehydrated.
Oh, that's funny.
I find I crave certain like fresher foods. Like I'll want sushi more, or I'll want
oh yeah.
just not meat and potatoes. I want vegetables. So it's like almost what my body is deficient in at the time. If I really think about it when I'm high, what do I really want? Then I'll immediately go to a food and then I'll think, oh yeah, well, why did I want curry? Oh, you got a migraine. You probably want the turmeric. So I have this certain thing that I've tuned into. I love eating, but I like to time my food with what I need in my body.
That's incredible. And you know what? This is
Definitely
why
Indian food when I have a headache. I want Indian food, but I've made a connection with the turmeric.
And you say
can feel it.
You think, and that's more highly attuned when you're under the influence of cannabis?
I think I might have tuned into it.
Yeah. Because what I found out when I was getting better initially was that, when I was going through the awarenesses, Like how everybody says cannabis, it makes you lazy. You don't do anything. It makes you go to sleep.
You were a lazy person to begin with if it made you
Perhaps,
lazy, because I'm not like that.
No, I know, but the thing with what I learned when I was really ill using it is the laziness isn't laziness. It's the cannabis being smart enough to go, you need to rest right now.
Yeah.
You need to shut down and rest so that your body can repair. The cannabis tells you this. And this is why it's made fun of when you're younger by the naysayers. They go, oh, it makes you lazy. And so, like, if that's what it's telling me to do and I'm open enough and listening to it and you're not clouded up with, 15 other drugs and booze, you'll hear it. And the same thing with food is, you get the munchies. And these reprehensible kids are just sitting around all lazy.
Eating
now they're just
garbage.
eating munchies. And that's because they don't know. They're just listening to the signal at that young age and being high. They're going, let's eat and pig out, let's get a pizza, let's whatever. But really, it's a result, it's a manifestation, and you figure it out later. It's your body going, I need nutrition right now. I need to go to sleep and rest, and I need nutrients. That's what being lazy is from pot. That's what the munchies are from pot. It's because it's a cannabis telling you need these things, right? So it's funny to me that, you've already tweaked on the
No, even
mangoes.
now, if I'm craving sugar, I'll try and eat fruit, and it goes away.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think
there.
that's where you get your nutrients is from a sweet thing.
Right.
So you're like, oh, I need vitamin C. I suddenly just really want to eat an orange.
Right.
Or whatever, whatever. And I'll just, this is so good. But then it goes away. But then sometimes I want sushi. I want that raw fish. I'm like, I must need omegas. Or I don't know. I'll crave really weird foods too. So I think that there's something in the munchie factor. Because there's people like who have cancer or people with any kind of stomach. What are they like? No, I'm rejected by food. They smoke weed and they immediately start thinking about all the things they want to eat. They might not be able to eat a lot of it, but
it's amazing how in tune it is, though, because when you take, so if that's what's happening to you when you take cannabis and you're able to just listen for a minute, I'm using that as a metaphor, but you can just sort of feel what you need. Like you say, you get an attraction to turmeric, or you need something else of a nutritional element. It again speaks to the fact that that's another great reason not to be on several different kinds of drug, on several different kinds of booze, and then get so high with cannabis that you're so screwed up. You are screwed up. It's still a tool. You're using it like a tool.
I like to think that cannabis has a lot of inertia. So when it's not going, when it's slow, you're not going to do anything. But it's like it'll keep on doing. So if you're already in a state of inertia, things are picking up. It'll accelerate that. So if you're a lazy person and you don't have a lot of inertia, you're going to end up being that way. And I see lots. But then people like you and me, who've already got the inertia going, we're going to go with those thoughts more. So we're less likely to eat chips, and we're going to try and tune in with that inertia.
Well, it's also true that...
Does that sound a weird way to look at it?
No, not at all. Not at all. This is the kinds of things I like to explore because, we're coming out as users. So many people are waiting for the calendar to flip, and then they'll try it. But we've been using it for a long time.
Where were you all these years?
Well, there will be a few of those. I think there'll be a little spike of people trying it, and they'll go, "Ooh, that's not for me." And there's nothing really to worry about. It's not like
I tried Percocet a couple times, and I'm like, "Whoa, not for me."
Yeah,
forget that.
But that's again what they say. It's like, well, if you make it legal, all these people are gonna. None of the actual true tests and field studies and experience in different countries show that. Not that I've seen, anyway. They don't have like 10,000, and then even if they did, it would probably be better for you anyway.
Maybe.
So that's what we do. We listen, we get some signals. You know what you want to eat. You feel like this. You feel like that. If you're clouded up with a lot of different pharmaceuticals, like if you take bath salts or one of these crazy, horrible drugs, it'll send you the message to take your clothes off and run at a high speed and dive through a glass window, right?
Or chop someone's
So
head
that's
off.
not a good drug to have. Spice or one of those things, but with cannabis you don't really get those ideas, and these folks have been
even drugs just found in nature. You don't get the same effects from opiates as you do from opium,
right? Or just an opium poppy.
You don't see, like, there can be an opium problem. There has been plenty of opium problems in the past.
Yeah.
It's often coupled with poverty or political suppression, but the epic amount of opiate problems we have in our society pales. Like opiate problems and the opium problems pale in comparison. So anything is always better in its original plant form.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, well, I mean, coca leaves, same thing.
Yeah, you don't see Inca people having troubles with it. You don't see Colombians having
No.
troubles with it. But yeah, that cocaine got troubles.
As soon as you concentrate it. Now, that said, it's exactly the same thing that I did do to this cannabis, was to concentrate it in that way, to use it as a rescue delivery system.
An extract is not the same thing I'm not talking about, but you look at those fake weed pills. Awful.
Oh, yeah.
Awful stuff.
I've not seen one. I wouldn't want to get anywhere near that.
I tried Sesame years and years ago, and I'm like, oh, I feel awful. Give me my weed.
So I just want to thank you for coming in and talking today, and I will never not have a giant sweet spot for you. You were so,
Thank you.
outside of my immediate circle of who I knew, and it was like, I can trust her. I know she has what I need to have. And we had such a great time. I remember going to your place. It was a Saturday. You had taken a couple of days to line it up to get like a small portion, like an ounce or something. And you need a pound, but it was a smaller, get started amount. And then you got it for me, and I was just sitting there holding it, looking at it, going, shit, I have stage 4 cancer, they tell me a couple of days ago. Now I'm looking at a bag of weed. I haven't touched this stuff in 8 years. What's going to happen to me? This is terrible.
Well, this is what happened to you. I'm so pleased to have
I'm
this
sitting
conversation
here.
today.
Oh, you too. And every puff jam I go to is just like, it just reminds me of how great it was to be able to walk in there and feel like, just to be able to unload a problem like that and have the trust of a person and not just be lost going, well, where am I going to get weed from? And who do I know that I can trust? And I haven't bought it in a long time. I don't have relationships, with people that sell it. So that was a big deal for me. Tell us what you're doing, if anything, for Karma Cup. Are you involved in that at all?
I'm not involved this year, but I support them on the side, and I do things for them when they need it done.
Karma Cup is fun.
In the past. I won a cup years ago
Did
for
you?
an edible.
Oh, yeah?
Year 2.
What did you make?
I made these little cookie burgers. So it was like a...
Oh, it looked like a hamburger?
Three different flavors of cookie with icing that looked like...
Oh, nice.
It looked like a Big Mac.
And you brought some of those today, did you?
No.
Oh, shoot.
I was just for that one year.
Okay.
But yeah, I totally support that cup. That's really in there. The sample package, I got to peek at it. I didn't get one, but
so
goddamn, incredible this year.
I went last year. It was the first time I had gone last year, and it's so fun. I mean, the people are so into what they're doing, and you find the craft angle, like the stuff that they're making and how they're doing it is so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
This is Karma Cup is a big deal if you haven't been there. Just a lot of people bring, and what's the ultimate thing? The cup itself is you're trying to have the best, like you had with the best treats or the best bud or the best compression method or the best whatever.
People buy a judge's package for
Right.
X amount of dollars, and then they receive the judge's package like a month prior. So they got a whole 3 weeks or a month to try out all the different things and then mark down what their favorites are, and then there's a big winners. But then there's all kinds of side things going on there too. So
what do you mean side things?
like just little parties.
Oh, sure.
And
Yeah.
hangouts. So I've helped them with that sort of stuff in the past.
Yeah. Well, I guess what do people do to become a judge?
You just buy a package.
You buy a package.
Yeah, it's not cheap, but in the end, gram for gram, you get your money's worth.
You get your money's worth, and you get a great education on what's out there.
You got an
and
experience.
Who's got what.
You meet people that you haven't seen since the year before at the last event.
It's the last time. Yeah, I can't believe it's around again. I hope to get to it as well. When is that? Do you know?
8th and 9th.
8th and 9th. Wow. That's coming up. So much fun stuff going on. All right, so here's one story that I wanted to run by you. We're going to get wrapping things up pretty soon. But this, where is it? I got it here in, sure, here it is. The secret of cannabinoids, right, and their medical benefits. This is on greencamp.com. Go to greencamp.com/cannabinoids or cannabinoids and check this out. This is just came out. This is 18 studies. Now, don't get too excited. There are hundreds of studies. I would even say thousands at this point. But here's 18 new ones. producing exceptional compounds that can't be found anywhere else in the world, etc., etc. You want to get on there. They have the 3 kinds of cannabinoids explained. Endocannabinoids, these are produced by the body. Phytocannabinoids, produced by cannabis and some other plants. And synthetic cannabinoids, artificially made in the lab. We're not really a fan of those because when I'm looking at myself in the mirror, shaving or whatever I'm doing, I prefer my eyes not to be bleeding out. I'm a little vain that way. I don't like the blood coming out where the tears are supposed to be. So that's a fantastic story. More medical health benefits. They keep rolling in. And I'm going to be moving into another suppository experiment shortly with this chocolate. Actually, cacao butter mixed in with the cannabis. Because, again, the cannabis and the chocolate interact.
Cannabinoids.
The cannabinoids. So I'm going to be sitting on some of those pretty soon, literally. Looking forward to that one. And there's a little less melting going on compared to...
I would still eat it, but that's because I'm a big chocolate fan.
Oh, sure.
I want to eat all my medicine. Just want it in a cookie. I want it in a food of some kind.
Well, this is going to be some kind of bioavailable punch in the stones, So
I hope it works.
Trying to bypass. I'm still not out of the woods. I'm still not. I may never
but
fully
you're alive, Alan.
That's
Fuck.
true. That's true. But I'm going to try to get out of the woods.
You are very much alive too, shall I say?
Very much alive. I've got
You're
a
alive
pulse
than
and
most
everything.
people out there.
It's true that I'm pretty excited and excitable. It's great to have that life force, but I do want to get to the other side of it for my own sake, just to get it behind me. It's been such a terrible long ride. On the other hand, I also want to be successful enough that I can get a full test that says, "Yep, you're done. You beat it," and then I can really get busy, trying to share the angles and the ins and outs with other people. So I can't really push it to the edge. I know it's helped me, so I can say to people it can help you too, but I'd like to put it behind me and say you can put it behind you too,
Well,
I've had that as a carrot on a stick, like leading the way ahead of things the whole time I've been through this, and it's so nice to be able to sit here and help people pick up some information, such as what you're bringing us today. So. I want to know if you're ever going to open another store, another front.
No.
We've got a great.
If anything, I want to move the club to a slightly better location. Not so much the location as a better layout, and just concentrate fully 100% more on comedy than anything. That's what last 2 years was just like. Okay, let's do one thing really, really well.
So you're looking for maybe another location.
Eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, we seat 80 or so. That's tight. But I don't really want more seating so much as more things around it. Like a kitchen would be great to be able to serve food.
Oh, yeah.
Having an area for comedians so I don't have to constantly tell them to shut up during my show.
Right.
Just stuff like that. But no, I think that if I started opening up franchises,
You go nuts.
I get anxiety. I don't want to die with anxiety. I don't want to be chewing my nails off because I'm worried about something over there.
You're going to spend most of your time traveling between the venues, wherever they are.
No, I'm just happy where I am. I just keep my feet up on the bar where I like to sit in the back where the sound booth is. And I don't know. I get a free show every night. So.
You get a free show. That's hardly fair, really.
Yeah, I'm pretty
No, it's
lucky
completely
there.
fair, actually.
You got to end your day laughing. That's the end of the story.
Yeah.
If you end your day crying, you'll have bad dreams. If you end your day laughing, you'll have good dreams.
Yeah, it is important to laugh.
Mm-hmm.
There is
there is science behind
There's
that.
science behind it. I mean, they said a long time ago, laughter is the best medicine. It turns out, those endorphins being created by you are just as manufactured by you and helpful as can be the opposite of that. If you spend a lot of time thinking terrible things.
You physically cannot laugh and cry at the same time. You can't. You can float back and forth quickly.
Well, you can laugh so hard
long
the
as you're
tears come out.
laughing,
But
your
yeah.
brain synapses are being rerouted every single time, and those old brain cells will die.
Yeah.
Those ones for crying and misery and depression and victimization, and you create new brain synapses. The more you laugh, the more it reroutes. So you can change your brain just by laughing.
Yep, and that's true. You can change your brain by doing a lot of things, and we keep hearing how cannabis will ruin yours while we have so much access to so many other things that absolutely do. I mean, you can get cocaine almost anywhere sugar. Oh, yeah, it's almost the same thing. You can get it at every single place that has coffee or what have you. I mean, the hypocrisy amongst the leader set is outrageous. But in any case, I'm going to thank you for coming in today. And before we sign off, folks, I do want to mention that CannabisDaily.co are the folks who put our website together. And I'm so grateful for them to have done this. And let's see what we can say about Cannabis Daily today. They have a couple of really good stories. They always have good stories, but I really wanted to highlight and say goodbye to Amelia. She's a 12-year-old girl who inspired a medical cannabis campaign in Minnesota. So because of what happened to her, a lot of other Minnesotans, is that right? Minnesotites? Folks from Minnesota, and hopefully more Americans, will be able to benefit from the highlight that was focused by little Amelia. So I'll tell you a little bit about her. She was considered the face of medical cannabis in Minnesota and has passed away at the age of 12. Her family and herself helped shape Minnesota's medical marijuana law, which took effect in 2015. She suffered from a rare and severe form of epilepsy, and before she started using medical cannabis was having multiple seizures in one day. Of course, we have friends over in Ireland who have taken the government to task as well, because the government, when they say no to these things, are always wrong. In 2014, this family had considered moving to Colorado in order to have legal access to medical marijuana, or let's call it cannabis. Colorado is one of the first states that have legalized it for medical and recreational purposes, but when they decided to stay in Minnesota instead to embark on a campaign for change of cannabis legislation and succeeded, the medical use of cannabis became legal after Governor Mark Dayton signed the bill in May 2014. So thank you, Amelia, for doing what you did, and it's unfortunate she has left us. She did experience condition improvement and had a customized care program that was based on formulated medicines with higher levels of the non-psychoactive CBD than the psychoactive THC. It's called cobalt oil. I guess that's similar to Charlotte's Web. And after starting with her therapy, she started to improve. And in the first 3 days of treatment, always a key point, the first 3 days, she only had one short seizure. Later in 2 weeks, started to walk on her own. I'm so sorry she was riddled enough not to be able to pull out of that. But other people in Minnesota, and therefore their neighbors, hopefully, eventually it's just going to bleed out, right? We're just all getting that we're allowed to have this medicine once we are aware of it. So thanks for running that story. CannabisDaily.co, provider of our website, Green Crush with Alan Park. Thank you very much. .com, right? Thank you very much for all of that. And did we get all the announcements? Yeah, I guess so. Paul Hartman and I are going to be at HempFest, Hemp and Cannabis Expo, rather, on September 15th, 16th. See us there live in person. We'll be answering questions and doing all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it's greencrushpodcast.com, not Green Crush with Alan Park. You can put that in Google. greencrushpodcast.com. It's so new. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I need 4 years of experience with this and putting it into little capsules and shoving it up my backside.
Don't go changing the name.
Don't go changing the name. greencrushpodcast.com. That's our website, and that's our show. I want to thank everybody for listening. We're going to have more contests coming up. Thank you for caring. Thanks for listening, paying attention, all that stuff. We are definitely looking forward to having more people on the show in the next little bit. I want to, once again, Joanna, where do we get a hold of you to come and see your venue? It's in Toronto. It's on the east side near Broadview and Queen.
Broadview and Queen, in Riverside. You can see me either at puffmama.ca, puffmama.ca, or put out Underground Cafe 420, and you'll find all our social media. Or just show up any Wednesday to Saturday if you need a laugh, and we'll take care of that.
Well, thanks for doing that. It's always important that we have those laughs because we need them more than ever. This place is getting messed up.
And despite what Joe Rogan says, we are not blitzkrieged all the time. Only when he comes to town.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a nice, calm, sweet venue. We get lots of great reviews. So
I think, when I've seen him.
Don't be scared.
When I saw it the first time, like the week after he was here, and I saw that clip, and I haven't seen it since then. But now it just seems so. Isn't it cute? How taken
but
he is by it.
when he comes, all his fans come, and then, then it's nuts. But we're not like that all the time. But we are. But we're not.
But we are. So we're going to leave it rather ambiguous then, I guess. So that is Green Crush. And what's this? What's another question coming in? Oh, you want to tell a story from the club. Have you got a story from the club? We're getting this question now. You're going to tell a story from the club. Tell us a story. We just heard the Joe Rogan story. What was that like? There must be some other kind of adventurous kind of thing you can share with us before we go.
Tell the story from the club?
Yeah, some fucked up thing that happened. There must have been something you can recall.
Well, I like to tell this story all the time. Like I bragged earlier, we haven't had any 911 calls or any experiences with cops except this one scare that we had. And it was on my birthday a couple years ago, and my friend Tracy Curley and Boyd Banks had organized a little party for me. A bunch of other people were there. And the door was locked, and we were having a good old time. And all of a sudden, Tracy comes from the hallway, and she's like, Joey, you better come out front here. There's a cop. I'm like, are you kidding me? We were closed. How did that cop get in here? How'd you get in here, sir? Where's your warrant? You shouldn't be in here. This is after hours. How'd you get in here? And I pushed him all the way to the front, and he spun me around in the bar, and he slammed me against the bar. He's like, you're under arrest. I'm like, you haven't shown me a warrant. And then Tracy pulls out a wad of cash, and it turns out he was a stripper. I got a cop stripper on my birthday. That's my one cop experience.
That's it. You would think there'd have been so much more trouble. Just before we go,
a good story.
In that we have a comedy connection, and that you have run this place so well for so long. Tell us about your friend Joe. Used to work at the club, right? And now he has his own chain of stores. Kind of why I was asking you if you're going to open up anymore.
Yeah, Joe used to run a production company called High on Trees, and he brought me a lot of big names. And then he opened his own The Corner Comedy Club, and he does similar comedy, although I'm like, when are you going to smoke weed in your club? And then we'll all come here. And he's like, oh, I don't know, that's not going to happen.
Can't do that, no.
Can't do that.
But he has a place downtown Toronto. Been there a couple of years now, I guess, right?
Yeah,
2-3
Queen
years?
and John.
Queen and John.
He's got one in Leslieville, and now he's got one in Niagara Falls on Clifton Hill.
And that's right, the new one. So he's got the 3 locations. So and Joe is cannabis friendly, but you can't smoke
he
inside
smokes,
the place.
Maybe I shouldn't out him.
Sure,
but
you can out him.
He doesn't smoke any weed at all. I'm kidding. But we just go in the alley behind this club.
No, you don't. I'm just kidding. Yeah. So it can't happen inside. You've got that. You've got that.
You never know. Legalization's happening. Maybe I'll get to him eventually.
You got the nasty laugh. Okay, tell me one thing I need to know about decarboxylation and baking.
Okay.
You must know something about that. You bake all the time.
Yeah, decarboxylation is just a technical term of making ready the weed for human consumption. If you ever see a THC molecule, there's a little stick that sticks off of it. And when you heat it up, that little stick breaks off and you can now absorb it.
Okay.
So making can of butter would automatically do that. Making and coconut oil would automatically do it.
You make can of butter and then...
I don't, because it stinks and I don't like cheeseclothing it.
Right.
But the recipe's on my site for that. But I do a toasting method where I'll take buds, grind them up, not to a pulp, but just to little buds. And I put it in a little toaster oven or a big oven if I'm cooking lots. And then I toast it.
On a cookie sheet or something?
I toast it at about 180, and there's this exact moment when you got to pull it because it's done. Whereas can of butter's safer, you don't have to be at this exact second.
Okay.
And I pull the buds, then I put them in my freezer, and then I grind that as a flour
So if you do it too
dry
long,
sieve.
if you leave it in too long or too hot, it just toasts up and it's useless? Is that what happens?
Yeah, it kind of starts killing off the THC. It activates the CBDs a bit more, which take a little longer. So there is probably, if you want to have a higher CBD, you just toast it a little bit longer. But again, you can kill it within a minute. It'll just suddenly be done.
Right.
So, but that's technically decarbing.
You have to do that.
But I say for amateurs, just start off with canna butter until you get used to.
So do you use canna butter and then the flour and make the cookies like that? So
I don't make canna butter at all anymore.
Oh, okay.
I just do, but then I can dose exactly. Okay, you want 10 grams in your batch. Then I'll just measure out 10 grams, decarb it in my toaster oven, and then I pull it, grind it up as a dry sieve, sieve it in.
It goes into the
It goes
batter.
in with the flour.
So you're baking it again, right? You're baking
kind
it twice?
of, yeah. You have to decarb it first because baking a cookie won't just do that.
Because you get all the...
You need a little longer, a little bit
the
specific heat.
The batter is covering the plant matter, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah.
I imagine a little bit more happens during the cookie baking, but...
Anyway, there are recipes and things we can find on your website?
In my blog section on my site, there's how to make a can of butter and also how to decarb and make the flour.
Amazing. Well, this is great. I'm glad that you're sharing that information. I've got to learn how to make my own, tasty treats. I don't do that at home. I don't.
Yes, I like to eat weed. Clearly, you can tell I am not skinny.
No, you like to eat things.
Love
I just don't make those kinds of things where I'm at right now. But I do like partaking, and I do like the comfort of Puff Mama's. Is it still called? Remember, it was called Clandestiny. Remember that?
That was the shop down the street. Yeah. But for long-time comics, still call it that. So I can always tell if someone's from the old days.
An old timer.
They call me Clan. They call it.
Yeah.
We're going to Clan. Spell with a C, guys. Spell with a C. But now we don't have that shop anymore, so it's just underground.
Well, you've been listening to Green Crush, episode 51. Episode 123 of Conspiracy Queries, and we will be back next week with more questions, another guest, more fun facts, and we'll see how well we do on our way getting closer to what's going to be an eventful and ridiculous legalization of this product, this item, this plant matter in Canada. But thanks for listening.
Thank you, Alan.